Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! And they are back on terms!
Hello, welcome to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast, and it's a smiling one today. It's a happy one, happy episode. The final home game of the regular season is done, and we all hope that is the final game of this season at home. As it was a win, a fantastic 2-1 victory away at home to Oxford United, and there's lots of players to talk about. And which we like, especially this time of the season. We're happy at this time of the season. Things have probably done quite well.
Yes.
We have the same lineup. We've gone Mick in the top of the screen. Hello, Michael.
Hello, good evening, good morning, whatever.
And Danny is.
Don't look at me like that.
Hello.
I hope everybody's doing okay. I know for a fact it cheered me yesterday. Oh, Mick. Just makes you feel a bit lighter, doesn't
it? Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it was never in doubt, was it? From the beginning of the season, it's never been in doubt.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it does lift the weight off a little bit, that, doesn't it? Yesterday, huge win.
Yeah, it was plenty to cover from it, from starting lineups to omissions from the squad to refereeing decisions to goals to penalties. One of my highlights of the day, and Mick, I know you saw this as well, was after the game, as the players did the lap of honour, and we stayed for a little bit, and as we were walking down the steps, Icky's little boy was having a little kick around, and Jamie Lindsay's kid did the most Jamie Lindsay thing ever and come from behind and just cleaned him hard.
Fantastic.
It was the best part of yesterday. I'm sorry, Icky, for your lad, but he just got up and carried on anyway, so he obviously didn't hurt him. But I mean, ball were miles away as well. It was so father-like, son. I have never seen it like it. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Even yesterday's ref would have booked him. I know he didn't like getting his cards, but even yesterday's ref would have booked him for that. That's how late it was.
Sign
him up. Let's go through what we've got in the comments. We have Theo Lewis is with us, Gav Grundy, Scott Grundy, all the Grundys are with us tonight. Paul Brock's with us, Neil Liversidge, John S, Michael Mortimer, Harvey Kelwick, YouTube user. Thank you everybody who has joined us so far. Let's start with this one, Ethan. Chio's okay at football, isn't he? Yes, he is. It was a change in formation, Danny, and a very surprising one. Oh, I saw it was surprising. That's where we tried to start against Ipswich, I suppose. But it worked. Chio was outstanding yesterday, along with others. But let's start with Chio. He had such a good game.
Yeah, he did. We tweaked the formation just a little bit. I think it ended up being a 3-4-2-1, which is sort of similar to the way Chio lines up for Ireland. Because you had Chio and Wiles just in behind Smith. And it worked. It really did play into Chio's strength, and even said in the post-match that he loves playing in that position, playing centrally. He's taken a couple of false starts in that position, but thank Christ that he's finally discovered that position for Rotherham now, because he's done ever so well in it against Oxford. And like you say, at times he was unplayable. The only thing that was missing, which was a good thing for my wallet, but a bad thing for the overall scoreline, was that he didn't score. So I'm sorry to Paul Brock and his young lad. You don't get the tenner. I am sorry, but my wallet is happy.
Yeah, very much so. Very, very much so. Yeah, it's been good. It was good. I mean, it wasn't the only change. Woody came back in. Harding then went into Chio's position on the right-hand side. Ozzy Tutu on the left. Back to the stand, like Danny mentioned. The stand in midfield 3, but we Wiles a bit further forward with Chio and Michael Smith up top. It's one of those, we say this a lot. I said it after the game, before the game on Tuesday. That looks like a really good lineup. But this time it was, and it worked.
Yeah, it did. It did. It allowed us to control that midfield better than we have done the last few games. I do worry a little bit about that one up front scenario. It does open up the management team for a whole world of criticism if we don't win. Nevertheless, I think it was the right move. I wouldn't argue with it. In Chio and Ben Wiles, you've got two incredibly capable assistants to Smithy there, incredibly capable. So yeah, I mean it worked. It worked well. And we got the result, which is like I keep saying, and I've been saying for a few weeks now. That is all that matters. But on top of that, yesterday the performance overall was just absolutely back to where we've been, back to where we were when we were on fire. So yeah, I mean that is a great sign.
It is very much so. We have a couple of negatives to talk about. We will come on to the referee later on because there's quite a lot to cover from that. The other story coming out of Rotherham United at the moment is Freddie Ladapo. Now, the Paul Davis tweet yesterday was quite cryptic from Paul Warren's message. It was quite cryptic. It left, as he thought, toys out for him, whatever. And what appears to have happened is that Paul Warren left him out of the squad. This is what Paul Warren has said. He left him out of the squad, and then Freddie didn't come to the game, and then wasn't at the air for the end of season lap of appreciation. Danny, how do you feel about it?
Well, I've read the backup article, not the backup, the follow-up article, sorry, from Paul Davis about it, and it's as simple as that he wanted to give Kelly a match day 18 experience at New York before the season ended, and that was it, really. That's the reasoning behind leaving Freddie out. It's just by the sounds of it, it's a victim of circumstance. He wanted to give Georgie Kelly a chance to be in the 18 at New York before it ended, and I don't know, maybe Freddie's got ump on about it, being left out at such a crucial time and just not bothered turning up. But for me, all you need to do is look at like Will Grigg and Josh Vickers and the lads who haven't been in the 18. They still turn up and support the team. Angus was there and he wasn't in the 18. He was still sat behind the dugout supporting everybody. And I think disrespectful might be a bit strong, but that's sort of the way it feels. That it's like the last home game of the season. All the players are there with the families and such. You've got Josh Vickers and Will Grigg going absolutely ballistic on comms, which was hilarious to listen to. And then there's the lap of appreciation and there's no Freddie. And it's like, why has he not turned up? And I don't know, maybe it's a toys out the pram situation, I'm not sure, but it does leave a little bit of a sour taste that he's not bothered turning up to at least support the fans that have supported him even after he's put in his transfer request.
Yeah, what we should say is that we don't know if anything is happening in his personal life or not. But what I would say to that is if there was, I think Paul would have said he wasn't here because of a reason. I'm reading between the lines there, Mick, but if there was a reason, you feel like we would have been told, yeah, it's not here because of something happening. The way Paul once said it made him sound like it was a bit of frustration and he was trying to hide it. That's how I read into those words anyway.
Yeah, I mean that sort of shone through loud and clear from Paul's tweet, didn't it? I've not read the article myself, so I don't know the full ins and outs of it. I would be tempted to wait until we hear the full story before. Well, I certainly will wait until I hear the full story until I sort of make any opinion on it. Really, on the face of it, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good from Freddie. It don't look good at all. I'll be honest. But we don't, like you've just said there, Matt, we don't really know the full circumstances. So, we can't really criticise at this stage. But what I would say is if he's just thrown his teddies out of the cot, then it does leave him wide open for some serious criticism. Because if that is the case, that's a really poor attitude. But we don't know, do we? We don't know.
No, we don't. We are assuming. Yeah. It's worth a comment. Let's get back onto some positive stuff, shall we? Shelley IRC. Well, lads, the lucky boxers came in handy again. You reverted back to them on Saturday. That's fantastic to hear. My lucky Sweden shirt seemed to have done the trick as well. Mick didn't have to wear his Sweden shirt because he couldn't get in it. Couldn't get back in it. But yeah, thank you everybody for doing it. Anybody wore anything lucky? Very good. Will Roebuck, Mick, you saw him yesterday. Will Roebuck says, I managed to bump into my hero Mick at half time. he shouldn't have feared after he knew my lucky boxers were on. If I'm the culprit for the loss, I'll happily take the credit for the win. Absolutely will.
I'm glad you didn't tell anybody where I bumped into you, Will, as well. Then. Where I bumped into you in your lucky boxer shorts.
Oh, brilliant. So let's talk about the first goal, which again is a slight negative, but just one of those things, Danny. I'm going to criticise, I'm not going to criticise is the wrong word, but I'm going to question aside Tutu's role in the goal. As soon as the ball went over his head, he was never going to try and win that ball back. And that was really frustrating. We'll come on to what happened to Barlaser in a minute, but I thought Asai Tutu could have done much, much better from a defensive point of view.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think as soon as the ball bounces, he's lost the yard on his man, but also thinks he's got more cover than he actually does on that side, and I think that's why he initially leaves it. And by the time he's left it, he's got another yard or 2 yards on him, and then it's just a losing formula. Then he's not got the yards on his man. He's gone beyond him. But what I will say, it's a terrific finish from Dan, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Bless him. To be fair to him, mate, if Barlaser doesn't bury it, it's going in anyway. There's a man free on 6-yard box. Yeah. All he's done is just taken the glory off the Oxford player. Yeah,
it's essentially what he's done, and you know, he couldn't do anything else. He's obviously tried to put it wide at post, and it's not. It's just not happened for him. And it's at that point you start to think, you know, after everything that we've gone through over the last few weeks, you know, is this what the season's going to come down to, losing 1-0 at home to an own goal from one of our best players at season? It kind of just sums it up, doesn't it? You know what I mean? But it did exactly the opposite. It did precisely the opposite. And that's exactly what you want, isn't it? You know, it sort of just completely changed the game in a good way, if that's possible when you score an own goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. We saw a few weeks ago, we talked about the IFC putting out the tweet about, I think it was only 4 points prior to Saturday that we'd gone from losing positions. And I'm exactly the same as Mick, Danny. As soon as that goal went, I'm thinking, well, we haven't done brilliantly at coming from behind this season. And it's one of them goals where you think, oh, God. I genuinely started to worry, but then 10 minutes later, I'm sort of thinking, my worry's gone. I know we didn't score, but there was an instant reaction in terms of how it played.
Yeah, I mean, before today, I think the only time we turned it round after going behind was Gillingham. And before that, for the past 3 of the 4 games, you know, first goal conceded and we've lost them. You know, well, actually, I think it's last 4 out of 5, isn't it? Because you've got Shrewsbury, Charlton, Portsmouth and Burton all conceding first and all losing. So it didn't bode well when we scored in our own net. Little bit of a kick in the teeth, to be fair. But like you say, we rallied ourselves and really cracked on. And I think most Rotherham fans could see us scoring at least in the first half. We took a time to get the goal, fair enough. But we were in the ascendancy. And I think Reggie's goal did change the half-time team talk into you've got one back now keep pushing rather than get one back and see where we are. And I think as soon as Reg scored, it was more or less tide turned. I think we were definitely the team that were going for the win more than Oxford, and we cracked on and we did look back to our best. We looked back to that really fighting Rotherham United side that wants to win every game, which is great to see when it's come down to the last 3, because that's what you want come end of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. The Reg goal, Mick, obviously, I was mentioned on commentary for Matt Goodwin and Josh Vickers and Will Grigg were on. Will Grigg and Josh Vickers managed to break the microphone because they cheered so loud. Which is
I've
brilliant.
not seen that. I've not heard that. Brilliant.
Yeah, if they, I can't remember his name. The Estonian lad tweeted it out, and I might go and talk about it. And as soon as it's back at net, just cuts out. Screaming and it cuts. It's brilliant. But Reg, let's talk about Reg. Reg got the goal, but Reg was brilliant again since he's come back in almost the second time after his initial couple of games. He's been brilliant. He's the man that was there earlier in the season. He's been superb.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. And he went outstanding again yesterday. And that goal is one of those defenders' goals you just absolutely love to see, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, you could have put anybody marking him, and he was having that ball. End of story. He just bulldozed his way through. And I mean, to a point where when the ball at the back of the net, I was absolutely convinced that the referee must be going to blow for a foul, because he'd just come with so much power, so much pace, and transferred all that into ball. I thought the referee's bound to blow for this.
Yeah.
And when he didn't, I mean, but the other thing I would say about that goal, when you watch it back, his reaction after scoring it is not running on his knees to corner flag. All he's doing is wanting to get ball out back at net and get back upfield, and he's screaming at everybody else to get back up and let's get on. I mean, that's a Rotherham United attribute right there, mate. That's exactly what we want from our players. You know, let's get on. We've scored. We've equalised. Right, we need to win now. Let's get on with it. I mean, for me, that was brilliant. That was absolutely fantastic. And I'm now a Huddersfield Town supporter, quite frankly.
Correct. Yes,
we want them to get promoted now, because I'd love to have him back next season. I would absolutely love to have him back. He's a hell of a player.
He's showing he's a championship player. That's the problem. He is ready for the championship.
Big time.
You're absolutely right. AJKRFC 19 on YouTube says Reg looked superb yesterday. If Huddersfield can get promoted, there's a chance we can get him on loan or permanent. Could you imagine a permanent? Other than the goal, Danny, where Barlas was left on his own, I thought defensively, they had a good game. I thought Woody was back properly back. Icky was solid as ever. We just didn't allow him in, and the defence was such a huge part of that. Yeah, they had a moment or two because the gunner. But for the most part, I thought defensively we were extremely sound.
Yeah, I think we marked our back line very well, and we kept them quite quiet, to be honest. I mean, Oxford technically haven't scored against us this season. I mean, we have for Oxford, but Oxford still haven't scored against us this season. And yeah, with the first goal, I think the reason why Dan's there is because he's trying to mark back and help out where he can defensively, because it sounds a bit harsh, but Ozzy did leave him a bit high and dry by not challenging for the ball. So Dan's tried to get back, and all right, yeah, it's a good finish, but you need to be getting underneath that ball and not just putting your lace through it. Yeah. Anyway, and then there was a moment, I think, in the second half where the ball just dropped for Ryan Williams just outside the 6-yard box, and everybody rushed him. You know, Victor rushed him, Woody rushed him, Icky rushed him. And I think that's a little bit of a mentality from Portsmouth, like, don't let another former player score against us. And it worked. And we kept shut of him. If he had disregarded the own goal, we kept shut of him, which is quite a feat. Bear in mind, Oxford are one of the highest scorers in the league this season. So, yeah, we've done very, very well both times against them. Yeah.
Shell FC says Reg was immense. Paul Brock, Reg was really good, fully deserved his man of the match. And also adds that he feels like he stabilised that back line. Russ Vernon says he spoke to Reg before the game yesterday, told me he's really enjoying his loan at RUFC. And like Russ says, like we all echo, we would love to see him back in a red and white shirt next season. We can hope, can't we? Yeah. The second half, Mick, it was basically one-way traffic. It was just the Rotherham United of November, October, December, whatever. We were so good. Poor Carl had absolutely no answer to us, is he?
I mean, no. We'll talk about Carl in a bit, shall we? We'll just have a laugh at his expense in a bit. But yeah, no, they were just on back foot from the 46th to the 95th minute or whatever it was. They were permanently on the back foot. Yeah, they carved out a couple of openings which they just, skied over at bar or Victor saved. But other than that, it was just one-way traffic. So yeah, we were back, as you quite rightly said there, we were back to our best, definitely, in that second half. And if we carry that on now, we are going up, no question about that. No question whatsoever. But we've got to maintain it. That's the key, innit? That's the key.
Yeah. No, it is absolutely. Let's have a quick chat about the referee before we talk into more positive things. We'll do a positive sandwich. Peter Carr mentioned about the goalkeeper, Oxford. Did you notice how the Oxford goalkeeper kept having a drink before every goal kick until they went 2-1 down? Yes. And then Victor took over that mantle of taking his time. Mark Gamble says he's looking forward to mixed ref rant. I hope you've got your notes ready.
I've got my flag ready.
Mick Rant flag make another appearance now. Charles Breakspear, as I pointed out previously, he has likes to show a bit of chest, doesn't he? And as I think this is a good rule. If somebody's willing to show that much chest whilst working, don't trust them. Just don't trust them. And that proved to be the case, Mick, to be fair.
Oh, he was woeful, weren't he? Yeah. He was absolutely woeful. I mean, he just, there were so many incidents where I completely lost my head with him that I can't even remember and pick out a specific one. He was just woeful. I ain't really got a rant, and I know Mark tweeted me yesterday saying make notes. I hope you're making notes. And I replied to him saying it's all in my head and it's all gone out of my head now, mate. There were that much of it. I should have made notes. You're absolutely right. It was just. I mean, well, I mean, I know we're going to come on to Tuesday. I know we are at some stage. So you can get your flag out again for that and all. But they're two peas in a pod, aren't they? Saturday's ref and Tuesday's ref. They are two peas in a pod. It's all about them. He clearly wanted to be centre of attention, but his decision making was just wow, amazing.
Yeah, a couple of individual incidents, Danny. Let's start with the Richard Wood penalty. YouTube user says definitely penalty first half. Paul Boundfield, how the hell did the referee miss the Stonewall penalty on Woody in the first half? Watching it on your vlog, it's a Stonewall penalty on Richard Wood. Sorry, I just spat on the microphone then, sorry. The only reason I can think he's not giving it is he's bottled it. The only reason not to give that is just he ain't got the bottle. Because it were obvious. Yeah,
it was. Woody's just been completely felled in the area, and when he stands back up, he's absolutely furious, isn't he? But again, referees very rarely give penalties on defenders in the opposition's box. You see it time and again. They very, very, very rarely happen. And I understand Woody's frustration because, thankfully, I did turn the video off before I made my comments clear to the referee because he was in audible distance from me. And I think most of the North Stand shared it because it was a Stonewall penalty. You can see on the vlog, Woody just gets floored. And like you say, Matt, I think the only reason it's not given is because he's bottled it. But I think there's an even more blatant one on Reg later on in the half when the keeper just got hold of him. Yeah, he just got hold of him and just shoves him to the floor. It's like, hang on, we're not here for WWE. I know, it's like, we're not here for WWE. You've got your arms round him and shoved him to the floor, but yeah, he's got the free kick. And we talk time and again about protecting goalkeepers. Now Victor doesn't get it. Well, their keeper must have had some bubble wrap round him or something because that is another blatant penalty. But I think without those two incidents in the first half, we wouldn't win the penalty in the second half. I think he'd have given the ball out straight away and gone back to that rather than give the penalty. So, swings and roundabouts.
I suppose it does. Mick, was that one of those ones where Reg got pushed over and got fouled? So that was one of the ones where you lost your head a bit?
I can't. Well, there were so many of them. There were so many of them. Yeah. I mean, I know I bang on about referees, but it's all about consistency, isn't it? The thing that frustrates me more than anything else is when they're inconsistent. So, Smith is getting his shirt ragged off him in middle of park. Nothing's given. Nothing's given at all. His shirt's so high up, you can see most of his chest and his belly. He looks like he's almost half shirtless, you know what I mean? And then goalkeeper just falls to the floor under a bit of a challenge, and it's a free kick. None of it it doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't understand how. I don't understand how you can be so inconsistent at your job and still keep it. If any of us were really good at our jobs 1 minute, doing one thing, and then doing the same thing next minute, making a mistake, and so on and so forth throughout the day, you'd be sacked. At least you'd be pulled aside and told, this is what you need to do. You need to do it consistently. You need to say the same all the time. It doesn't happen, does it? And that's what's frustrating about it. So frustrating.
Yeah.
But, listen, if we get promoted, mate, this is going to be every single game, innit?
It is.
No question. Because I know I keep saying it, but the standard up in the Championship is far worse than it is in this division. Yeah, we've had some howlers this year, but we've had some decent referees as well. The last 2 seasons in the Championship, apart from the Australian lad Gerard, whatever his name is,
Jared Gillett.
I cannot say and remember a decent game that any referee has had. So
he's a Premier League ref now. That tells you. Scott Grundy says, Matt, we think we need a weekly Mick rant introduction. Next season, we may well try and get a jingle together. Mick's rant of the week or something like that.
But then you're putting pressure on me. Then, and then I have to do research and all sorts, and I'm not getting involved in that. I've told you. I've made my stance very clear on that. Don't do research. Don't get involved.
Oh, brilliant. But let's give some sort of credit to the referee because he did give us a penalty, Mick. I saw a few Oxford fans suggesting it was soft and a dive. It was a nailed-on penalty, and he tried fouling him from corner flag to almost wherever Chio fell over. It was a foul all the way.
It was. I've seen a tweet from one of the Oxford fans later on today retracting his original tweet. I mean, fair play to the lad. Instead of deleting his tweet, he's come back and said, I've looked at that. It's a Stonewall penalty. I've watched it again. So, it clearly was an absolute Stonewall penalty. And the lad knew he were beaten before he got in the area. So why he waited to foul him, till he got in the area to foul him is a bit bizarre. But I think he's a young lad into the defender that fouled him. I think he's quite new to the side. So a little bit of naivety there, but great work from Chio. So brilliant.
Yeah, and then came the penalty itself, Danny. I was a bit worried because when penalty was given, nobody went over to the ball and just took it under their arm and I'm taking it. It was also they were all a bit unsure who was going to take it, but then Barlasser steps up, and it's almost the perfect penalty to hit it that hard, that low. The keeper's just got no chance at all, has he?
No, not at all. But Barlasser also, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but he hits it just to the left of centre, which is interesting because on the broadcast, if you watch it back, you actually hear Oxford Ven shouting, stay in the middle. I think that's what they shout anyway. Basically tell the keeper to stay in the middle because Barlasser always goes down the middle. And because it's so hard and ever so slightly to the left, just completely throwing the keeper and he doesn't move until the ball's already past him. What we know what we get from Barlasser, he's fantastic at penalties. It's just the pure pace behind the ball that gets in the net, and it makes it very, very hard to save for any keeper, really. But one thing I do want to draw attention to is that I watched the Quest coverage of it, and their commentator that they had on our little section, we got a very cheeky comment in. I don't think he likes Rotherham. I think he's a Wednesday fan. Because it's when Woody goes down for his penalty, and he says, "Oh, that blatant penalty on Richard Wood, but given Rotherham's recent one reform, they wouldn't have scored it anyway." It's like, he's like, "You cheeky sods!" I think we've only missed like one penalty that hasn't been a penalty shootout all season. But
Yeah, but
that many shootouts, we're experts at them.
yeah, exactly. We've won. We've only lost one penalty shootout and only missed one penalty during the 90 minutes. So to say we wouldn't score it, it's like, you cheeky wee sod.
To be fair, we've missed a lot of easier chances than penalties recently, though, haven't we? So let's be fair.
Yeah.
It's probably a fair comment.
Yeah.
That's very, very true. But then it was only 2-1, Mick, but the game was sealed. Like I said, they had a moment or two, as they're going to do, because we're not perfect. But we were just so much better than them. Whilst we were unlucky not to finish the game off, there were a couple of chances or two. But I said this only 10 minutes ago. It was so comfortable. It was one of the most comfortable 2-1s I think you'll potentially ever see. They were never really in the game, ever, especially in the second half.
Yeah, it was interesting, weren't it? Because we like the Ipswich game, we saw that out very, very comfortably. And to be fair, with the exception, like you say, of a couple of openings that they did carve, we never really looked in much danger, did we? We managed it out, managed the game really well, and we're unlucky not to get another one. I'd have put my house on Ben Wiles scoring that goal, but he took his final touch before he took his shot was just a little bit too heavy, just went too far in front of him, and his touch was off a little bit a few times yesterday. It didn't stick as well as it has done. But that's not a criticism of him. That's what I mean. We're 44 games into the season plus all the cup matches. You know what I mean? The legs are starting to get tired, aren't they? But yeah, we just sort of game out comfortably, I thought. Now looking back, at the time I didn't, obviously.
Oh, at the time it was not comfortable at all.
No.
But Will Roebuck, did Danny tell Victor to run to the camera? As the game came to its conclusion, Victor ran into the crowd. Literally ran into the crowd. We put a little thing up on Twitter. I put best bits of Victor from your vlog, Danny. And as Paramed UK, we need to get Tony Stewart to fix the Victor cam up because it was just. He was brilliant, wasn't he, yesterday? It just means so much. He's not the only one, obviously, but it just means so much to him.
Yeah, it's worth paying the £26 just to watch Victor's reactions at New York Stadium, isn't it? But yeah, especially when Barlaser missed that sweet as a nut strike that he did that only just went over the crossbar. The fact that he falls to his knees about it, it's like he's definitely spotted the phone that's out, and I don't know if he's playing up to it or just or what, but. The bit at the end, as soon as the full-time whistle goes, he's in the crowd, which is fantastic. Yeah. And it just goes to show how invested he is with this club that he's willing to do something like that. And LAFC Ethan has echoed my thought process exactly. The Swedish GK, the cycling GK, correct. I'm telling you, Victor, start your own YouTube channel, put a GoPro behind the goal, and you will surpass Ben Foster very, very quickly. Or at least start watching the cycling GK for ideas, because Victor's reactions are 10 out of 10 to everything that he does. It's like we had the reaction for the Ipswich game, which was class when we full-time went, and then jumping in the crowd right at the end was class as well. And and every time we scored down the opposite end, he always turns around and celebrates with the crowd, just not in the crowd, which is great. But he can't watch penalties at all, can he? Every time there's a penalty down the opposite end, he turns away from it and just waits for our reaction. But yeah, Victor's reaction's class. I tell you what, we could make a reaction channel. New York Talk Reacts, and it's just Victor's reactions all the time.
Yeah. Brilliant. Paramed UK also says this plays into the post-match. Victor and Chio are like a bunch of fans on the pitch.
Oh, Chio and his hat.
Chio and his hat
at the end. That was fantastic.
They were amazing. I love it. It's so easy to like this bunch of players, making it. They're just great. Victor and Chio are really obvious ones, but they're all just great to watch, and I so want them to do well for themselves. Never mind because I support the club. They all deserve to do well as well.
Yeah, they do, and they're a great bunch of players. Absolutely fantastic bunch of players, and they're clearly playing for each other as well as the club, and they're invested in it and everything else. I don't know. I find it. I've had quite a few discussions on Twitter this week over some of the criticisms of Warney and what have you, and I find it impossible to get my head around the fact that anybody can criticise them. Anybody, it doesn't compute with me, you know. And I'm not being sort of having a pop at people or anything like that. I genuinely don't understand it. I don't understand why, you know, that when we lose a game, we're on everybody's back. When you see the reaction, the way that they are together, particularly after the game yesterday, but you know how invested they are in the game when they play, when they're winning, when things are going well. You know, it's a great squad. There's no doubt about it. Whatever happens this season, God forbid that we lose our next 2 games and lose in playoffs and don't go up. God forbid that happens. But even if that did happen, we have had a hell of a ride this season. A hell of a ride, you know, with some absolute quality players. And we'll look back at this squad in 2 or 3 years' time with the same affection that we'll look back at some of the players that Fatty Evans brought in, you know. But you know, the likes of Carrie Arneson and people like that, James Tavernier, and some of the others that he brought in, but they are not a patch on the quality of this squad, in my view, you know, and a lot of that is down to the culture and the environment that's being created for them to flourish and to thrive. So yeah, fantastic. It's fantastic to see, and fantastic to see how together they were.
Yeah, Cheryl's done. This is the story Chio told yesterday. She loves that Paul Warne invited Chio for Christmas dinner just in case Chio was on his own. Yeah, it's just wonderful. And I don't know if you would listen to the interview with Chio on Radio Sheffield, Danny, but you just can't listen to Chio and just not love him. He's just brilliant. He just sounds happy all the time, and he speaks really well. He's not like a typical idiot footballer. He's clearly very intelligent as well.
Yeah.
Just great.
I think Chio is just the quintessential modern footballer, isn't he? He's just happy to play the game, and you know, and he's buzzing when you win him, but he's not completely down in the dumps when you lose. And he's just happy to be there, isn't he, Chio, which is fantastic to see. And I said to Warney inviting him around for Christmas dinner, can I have my invite next year, please? Yeah, I know he offered it up to a few players, didn't he? The invite for Christmas dinner. Which again puts Warney as a quintessential modern manager. It's not always about screaming and barking orders to the players. Sometimes it's about just a little bit of nurturing and being more of a father figure rather than a manager to him. And I think that's why this squad is so invested in the team. Maybe minus Freddie, but he must have his reasons somewhere in that. But with the rest of them, it's like people keep saying they've spoken to Mikel Miller, we've spoken to Victor about potentially signing new deals, and they say if we're offered one, we'd love to. Reggie's loving his loan. I imagine Talaji's loving his loan as well. Will Grigg has loved his loan here as well, to the point where he's on comms with Matt Goodwin. And I think all of that is based around Paul Warne. I think if you ask any player, what's the main reason for your signing for the club? And it's like, well, it's how the manager sold it. And I think that's one of Paul Warne's many feathers in his cap. He sells this club very well, doesn't he? He sells it by telling them why they shouldn't sign, which makes them want to sign anyway, and then becomes like a nurturing sort of teacher or father figure to some of them, which is fantastic, isn't it? I mean, he has his criticisms, both from us and from fans, and sometimes they go a little bit too far, but as a whole, as a manager, he's been a breath of fresh air, not just for us, but for the EFL as a whole, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. AJKRUC says, Victor sometimes sings along with the chants of the trance. That is brilliant.
That's fantastic.
That is brilliant. That is quality. Yeah. Philip Rawlinson, what a season, yet there's still some fans saying Paul Warne's out of his depth. Anyway, let's talk about some more individual performances. Midfield was very, very good. Yesterday was Ollie Rathman's 50th appearance of the season, because he only signed in the summer mix with 50 games already. And he could barely walk by end of the game. What a game, Ollie Rafford. First half was quiet, but second half was just, he were immense. He was contender for man of match for me.
It was, yeah. It was. He must still be out of breath now, 36 hours later or whatever it is, I don't know. But it just goes on and on and on and on and on, doesn't it? And then after that, he goes on and on a bit more. He is immense. He's a hell of a player. He's a cruxy without the goals, isn't he? Without the height and goals.
Yeah.
He's everywhere you look. And if only we could find a place for him and Jamie Lindsay to play together, because when they have played together, believe it or not, I would certainly never have believed it. They play really well together. But yeah, well, I had a great game. Did the lad. And again, somebody else that's so clearly invested in what's happening. You watch it again afterwards. You watch them after, and they're just happy to be with each other. And I know that sounds a bit pappy, doesn't it? And a bit, I don't know. It does. It sounds a bit pappy, but it's massively important. It's hugely, hugely important. Because that kind of attitude can bring a bad team up 3 or 4 notches. But when you've got a cracking team as well, with the ability that this team have got, it can take them up 5 or 6 notches, and that's what Warney's done with this squad this season. And Ollie Rathbone is a prime example of that. We're not even at the end of the season, and he's already got his 50th appearance for us, and in his first season. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's mad.
Crazy. Carl Scott always thinking Russell Bunny.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'd love to know what he has in his tea in the morning.
Yeah. Do you think he does a Jimmy Vardy, just downs a couple of Red Bulls before he starts?
Yeah.
Got a comment here. J-Boy says the EFL season presentations are on as we speak. Smith is nominated for Player of the Season. If that comes through when we're recording, we'll talk about it. He should win it. He won't win it. I think Scott Twine and Barry Bannon are also nominated. I think Scott Twine will get it, to be honest with you.
Of course he will. It's from down south. That's that weird looking lad, isn't it?
I don't know. Is he weird?
It looks like he's made out of plastic, doesn't he? Just saying. Just my opinion. Not saying he is. Cut that out, because I might have offended somebody there, but
do you understand how live works, Mick?
No, not really. As you are very, very well aware that not the last podcast, but the one before, we spent 5 minutes talking when we weren't even live. I don't know what live means.
That's true. Scott Grundy says Ollie's dad, Ollie Rathbone's dad, Mick, was interviewed on TalkSport, and he said that Rotherham it was a great club. Yeah, he's done a book promotion. He's done another book. That's all I've got, really. Must move on. Mark Gambles says pick a midfield 4 from Barlasser, Frecklington, Will Vaulks, Richie Smallwood, Ollie Rathbone, and Ben Wiles. Can you imagine? Can you imagine
them at the same side at the peak? Good lord. It would be a football manager, eh?
You know what I'd go for there? And this is I would have Barlasser, Frecklington, Rathbone, and Wiles.
You'd have no Vaulks or Smallwood?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't need them. They could be sat with Barry Bannon on bench.
Okay.
And that's a sign for me that 3 out of that 4 are current players in the current squad, current starters.
Yeah.
That's how good they are. The only person out of that for me that would improve it is Lee Frecklington, but Lee Frecklington would improve any midfield for me.
That's true. That is very, very true. J-Boy says, I also think we should sign Tutu. He's been brilliant for us for the last few matches. From an attacking point of view, I completely agree. I think he's come on leaps and bounds in a very short time. He's come on to us. Defensively, like I've already mentioned, for the goal, there are massive questions. He seems to lack a bit of fight and a bit of aggression. But maybe that'll come. If he kept playing for something like Rotherham United, I think that'd probably naturally come. Because he clearly wants to. He's clearly trying. I just don't think he's naturally a fighter. I don't think is what I see.
I think you can also put that down to he's missed quite a fair bit of his career through injuries. So he, as we've seen as well, he definitely got a very high pain threshold, very low pain threshold answer because last couple he's had to go off injured, but he has come straight back in. That could be his investment in the side. I don't know, but when you've seen so much of his already short career injured, I think he does just he just backs off a little bit from going into the meaty challenges. But if we were to sign him as a permanent player, he would, bed himself in and get more confident and then keep building himself up, and then he would go into challenges. Like we saw that with Chio. Chio had a spell where he didn't go in for the meaty challenges because he was injured more or less straight away after coming to us. And he's come on leaps and bounds, and, maybe Aussie 2-2 could go the same way.
Yeah, he's exciting. He's very, very exciting. When he's getting at players, Mick, he just looks. The defenders look like they're frightened of him. They look terrified of him because he is very, very quick. Yeah, he is quick, but he's also extremely skillful. He's probably more skillful than Chio. His close ball control is so good.
Yeah.
And how many times so far has he been half a touch away from being clean through? And a couple of times he has been clean through. He's got so much potential, that kid.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm still not 100% convinced on how committed he is to us, but clearly he's here on loan and he's here to get match time. So it's a bit of a difficult situation for him in the sense that that's why he's here, but he's here. He's trying to do that in an incredibly high pressure situation for the club and for the team and for the fans. So I can probably suggest that's possibly why I'm of that view, that he's not 100% committed. I don't know, but he's a hell of a player. He's an absolute hell of a player. He's not somebody that I don't think we could ever probably afford, quite honestly. But we'll see. It depends what happens in the next two games, and then we can start speculating on, what's going to happen to the squad next season, depending on where we are. So, but yeah, he is a class act. There's no doubt about it. And to be fair to him, after the game, when he was coming around with players, he was clearly enjoying himself. And when Dan Barlaser scored that penalty, his behaviour was just so sweet. So he'd really bought into it at that point. So maybe I'm all right. Maybe I've got it all wrong.
I think so. I hope so. John Oxtoby asks, where's Crooksy in that best midfield lineup? We've got to fill some episodes in summer, so
we'll do that. Yeah.
We'll try and get them all on one episode and let them just argue it out and see who wins. And the top four make the midfield.
Brilliant. Paul Boxer he was sat in the change room at 1 o'clock with Ollie Rathbone and Mikel Miller, who were watching the Man U Arsenal game. They were very funny as they follow opposite teams. Such great camaraderie. Yeah, Rathbone, I assume, is a Man U fan because he came into their youth. Mikel Miller's a Londoner, so I assume he's Arsenal. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. We had another comment. A slight negative is Paul Banfield asks, can't fully understand why we took Harding off. Thought he had a very decent. I thought he had a very good game. Paul Banfield thinks it's a decent game. Hope he's okay. Not picked up an injury. When they were walking around at the end, I think he was holding a bag of ice, which is a slight concern. So we can sort of forgive that, Danny. At the time, I was saying, everybody around me was saying, why are you doing that? That's a stupid defensive substitution. You're inviting pressure upon yourself. But he was clearly injured. So what is he going to do?
Yeah, I think so. I think just one of his muscles blew up a little bit, and if we've got the people on the bench who can do the job, you make the substitution, you don't risk them. And where we are thankfully in a position where we don't have to risk players too badly when they've had a muscle blow up. Because we've not really heard anything on Twitter about it, or Paul Davis hasn't reported anything on it. So I imagine he will be okay for Tuesday. Because our man at the Advertiser is very quick on stuff like that, isn't he?
Our man.
Yeah. Yeah, he works in New York Talks, not the other way around.
Yeah. Darren Simpson has mentioned, Paul once said there was no injuries, which is good. We have a few questions by Michael Moore asking, will Joe Matip leave? But Irish Ethan mentions when he came on, Mick, he had a good game, and he brings that seniority, that experience. And I know it's a defensive sub, and I don't like it. I know it had to do it, but it worked. Matip were very good.
Listen, you'll remember back to the last season in Championship, or last season Joe Matip played in Championship. He was as solid as a rock, and it was a disappointment to us when we lost him to injury. He's got some more years in him yet as Joe Matip. Very, very experienced defender, and the benefit to us of moving him away from that left wing back slot into a central defensive role just gives us that little bit more flexibility as well, and that more experience in an area where experience is crucial at the back. So I don't think he'll leave. I hope he doesn't leave because I think he's going to be a valuable player for us for a couple of seasons yet to come. I'd like to see his career out with us personally, but that obviously depends on him and what's best for him and the club. But for me, there's no way. I don't get this this sort of negativity when he's named it squad. You know, he gets named it squad or gets named it first in starting 11, and all of a sudden there's negativity, and I find it a bit bizarre, a bit peculiar. He seems very, very short-sighted because he is a very, very good player still, no question, particularly at this level. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. And I Ethan, we could talk about all players. Icky's been the unsung hero for as solid as a rock, but sometimes I had a mistake in him. Yeah, sometimes he has 50p head, done it, occasionally. But he's been such a good player this season. He's been missed for me, other than a very short spell. He's been Mr. Consistent. He's out of contract. This could be the last time we see Michael Smith, Michael Heckery, a number of other players. This could be the last time we've ever seen them at New York Stadium in a Rotherham shirt. We obviously hope that's not the case for a lot of them, but it could very well be the last time. So hope we've enjoyed them. I hope it is the last time this season anyway. Paul Brock wants to ruin our idea of Carl Robinson. He says, I spoke with Carl Robinson before the game, and to be fair, he was great with us and all the mascots. Somebody asked him if he would do us a favour and said he wouldn't even do that for his nan, as in letting us win. I think he probably plays up to the Mardy persona, Mick. He's clearly, he can't be that Mardy in life. He wouldn't get to where he was if he was actually that Mardy. He just wouldn't, would he? No. But I think he sort of enjoys the play of the pantomime villain, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm sure he does. And we're only too happy to oblige in criticising him for it, aren't we? You know, we'll keep that going for him as long as he wants. You know, I'm sure he is a nice bloke. I'm sure. You know, outside the football pitch, outside the dressing room area, the football environment, he may well be a nice enough bloke. But you know, as far as Rotherham United's concerned, he's one of our nemesis, whatever the word is, and it's always lovely to get one over on him. You know, there's little things. Having said everything that I've said there, you know, that he might be a nice guy. There's certain little things about people that you notice that give away the true character, aren't they? You know what I mean? And prior to the game, he's not involved in any of the coaching, none of it whatsoever. Which, to be fair, most managers aren't. You know, one is the exception rather than the rule. But he has to come out and clap the fans twice. You know, just on his own, just to make sure that they all know he's there and he can soak up that sort of admiration. And he did that yesterday, and then 5 minutes later, he went and did it again because he enjoyed it so much first time. You know, so they could massage his ego a little bit. Little things like that, you know, they're the kind of measure of the man, because Paul Warne did not take part in that lap at the end of the match, because as far as he's concerned, that's all about the players. His work is not done, the players' work's not done, but that's all about the players. It's not about Paul Warne, and that's the difference. That's the difference. And for whoever it was who I had the conversation with on Twitter about Steve Evans would have been at the front of that queue wandering around the pitch on Saturday afternoon, because it's all about Steve Evans and it's all about Carl Robinson and other managers like that. That's the difference. And it's a massive, crucial difference for me between our manager and a lot of the also Rans.
Fair enough. Danny, anything to add on Mr. Robinson or our mate Carl?
There was a moment during the game where I don't quite know what was said, but the some of the fans in the West End definitely got under the skin of the away dugout, and there was a little bit of a kerfuffle, and it was actually Carl Robinson who calmed it all down and shook one of our fans' hands about it and diffused it. So I can say fair play on that one. And he's not just protected his team, but he's also had a word with our fan, and the situation got diffused very quickly. But just to completely turn that on his head, Carl Robinson very much reminds me of Dr. Robotnik from Sonic. You know, that pantomime villain. You know, it was like who tries to architect your downfall by any means necessary. But thankfully, our Sonic of a squad overcame him this time. But all he needs to do is grow the big mustache so he can sit there and twirl it. That's the one thing he needs to do, and he's the pantomime villain. But I don't know. I have a little bit of respect for him, because he's one of those managers where he dishes it out, but he can also take it at the same time, which is, in my book, a fair play on his part.
I never thought I'd be a part of a podcast where we were actually complimenting Carl Robinson. I'm finding it really hard. I'm finding it really, really difficult, and it's only because we won.
Well, I mean, I paid him a compliment and then just tore him down by saying he looks like Dr. Robotnik.
Oh yeah, I suppose, yeah.
So if it comes next season with a completely bald head and a big giant ginger moustache next season,
he's listened.
You know how he's listened.
Yeah.
Are you seeing in the comments says, look at a tweet on Twitter. If True Onefield goes, do we go for him? Now this is from somebody on Twitter. Sounds like Will Volks potentially leaving Cardiff in the summer, out of contract. Would we take him back? Yes. Yes, we would. Yes, we would. But there's also his wages at Cardiff are much, much higher. We can dream. We can dream, can't we? Bring Frex back and all. Sod it. AJK says, can we pitch invade at Gillingham? Now, I'm pretty sure that we can't organise a pitch invasion because this is recorded, that type of thing.
But they can't stop us.
Can't stop 2,000 Rotherham. Don't do it. Brilliant. Yeah, and as we got coming, Alfie was mascot. It's Alfie. It's fun being a mascot at the game. Yesterday, met all the players, told Chio to shoot, and said good luck to all of them. Smith was in front of Chio, and Smith said to Chio, you need to shoot. Brilliant. 57 minutes. We're not even touched on the Sunderland game yet. Having a stinker tonight, aren't we? Anything else we need to cover from the Oxford game? Should we talk about where it leaves the situation ahead of the Sunderland game? Morecambe couldn't do us a favour and couldn't secure their League One status because they lost 2-0 away. MK Dons were at home. Wigan picked up a late point at home to Plymouth. Sorry. So we sit 3 points behind Wigan. They have a slightly better goal difference, having played the same amount of games. And we sit level on points with MK Dons with a game in hand, with a 6 better goal difference as it stands. So all we need to do is match MK Dons' points total in their final game, and we have 2 games to match their points total. That's basically it. Oh, we should point out that turns out, this is a surprise. Sheffield Wednesday are not going to get automatic promotion. I know. Unbelievable scenes. Can't believe.
You know what they should do? You know what they should do? They should sack the manager. That this week, obviously, and clearly, obviously, if they're getting playoffs, and they should reinstate him. But at the moment, I think they should sack the manager. I mean, last week he was brilliant because they could still make automatic places, but now they can't. They should sack him. He's useless unless they get in playoffs. Then they should keep him on. If they win playoffs, then they should keep him on. But if they don't win playoffs, then they should sack him. But if they get to final, keep him on. But then if you lose it final, then you should sack him.
Anyway,
unless you go to extra time. Again,
my brain hurts now.
Yeah, well, that's what it's like being a Sheffield Wednesday supporter, mate. That's exactly how it is.
Yeah. So that's how everything sets up. Obviously, we know our running fixtures. We've got Sunderland away and then Gillingham away. Wigan have Portsmouth away on Tuesday and then go away to Shrewsbury. So Shrewsbury is not a bad way to finish the season, really. But Portsmouth is going to be difficult, as we found out a couple of weeks ago. And MK Don's last game of the season, I think, is away to Plymouth, which is comfortably the hardest of all three teams in terms of final day fixtures. Let's do the Sunderland preview, then we'll sort of talk about permutations and whatnot. A couple of stats from Mick. As I say, I put a bit of effort into this, Mick, so if you can at least pretend to be interested.
Yeah, no worries.
I appreciate it. We have never won at the Stadium of Light. We have 2 draws and a defeat. Yeah. The next one's even worse. We haven't won in Sunderland since 1959.
Oh, bloody hell.
That day.
You were? Yeah. Just getting to your mid-30s, weren't you?
Yeah, probably, something like that, yeah.
As pointed out by many people on Twitter, and if you haven't heard this already, I apologise for ruining your Sunday evening / Monday. Bobby Madley is the referee on Tuesday.
On telly. Oh, it's not on telly, is it?
It's not on telly. No. I don't know what to say to that, Dan, to be honest with you. It was him against Wickham was the worst refereeing performance of the season. I know we've had some bad ones. That was the worst. It wasn't as terrible against Hartlepool, but it certainly wasn't good. And that's a concern that we're playing a big team. We're playing big team, and refs like him tend to bow down to home pressure from him. That's what I think, anyway.
I mean, technically, we're the bigger team than Sunderland because we're higher up the league, so we might actually play into our favour.
Whoa, hang on a minute.
That's wishful thinking.
You do it any minute.
That's wishful thinking, isn't it? Yeah, we just need to play to our strengths and get the jobs done. Just don't try and play up to the referee. If he makes an absolute honking decision, then of course you can challenge him on it, like Woody and Nicky do from time to time. But I think in a game as big as this, it's just focus on your own jobs and do that effectively, and we'll see it through. Don't rely on the referee to make a decision going your way, because it probably won't in our case. But hopefully it's a refereeing performance closer to Hartlepool where it was actually okay, rather than Wickham when it was just, do our jobs, don't rely on the referee, and we should be okay.
Yeah. J-Boy says another stat for us, which you'll see this evening, that for the first time this season, we are not going in as bookies' favourites. It's strange that we're not favourites, Mick. We're second in league, and Sunderland are in playoffs. I know they're at home, but surely for me, we come into this as favourites, and that's not me. That's not me saying we are definitely going to win.
Well, you would have said so, wouldn't you? You would have said so. I don't know what the odds are. Certainly from bookies, I wouldn't take blindest bit of notice. Yeah, we're slightly down on the odds, but what the bookies know, they know nothing, do they? All they know how to do is take money off you, so that makes no difference. And we're underdogs. We like being underdogs anyway, if that's the case. You know what I mean? If that is actually, if there's any sort of accuracy to that sort of thing, which we all know that there isn't. So it's all based on what you've talked about there, previous stats, and previous stats have very little bearing on the full 90 minutes. So, but whatever, I don't care. It's not a consequence, is it really? Just got to do it, and like Danny says, do our job.
But don't forget, and like Sam Tuck says here, if Sunderland get 30,000 fans, they will start with the goal advantage. So
obviously.
That's probably one of the favourites. That's one of the favourites, isn't it?
That's probably what it is. That's probably what's tipped it over the 50-50 chance, isn't it? The fact that they've got a lot of fans, which, as you're right, as Sam rightly points out there, is a 1-goal start, isn't it? So I don't know if anybody knows anything about betting. There's the Asian handicap stuff where you can bet on a team to win -1 goal. You know, like say if Man City are playing Hartlepool, you can back take a goal off Man City, and that's your starting point. We should do that like an attendance handicap, shouldn't we? Same sort of thing. So Sunderland will be +1 or even +2. They'll start +2 goals, and Wendy's obviously start +15 against everybody that we play, because they're all so massive. I'm gonna ring Bet365 up and say I'm gonna float this idea to them. I think I'm onto something here.
Yeah, I think you should do it.
Definitely. Forget the Asian handicap, the attendance handicap. Brilliant.
Yeah. We have a list of their players. It's extremely long. I'm looking at their squad list. They have goals in their team, and it's fair to say that Ross Stewart is, I think, he's going to end at wing. He'll got League One's Golden Boot. He has 24 goals this season from 44 league. That's league games. But their next highest goal scorer has 9. So they're obviously not a one-man team, Danny. You don't get playoffs by being a one-man team. But if you can cut out Ross Stewart's goals, that hurts them. That would hurt them a lot in terms of their progress on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Ross Stewart is effectively their Michael Smith, isn't he? He's had a very good season, I agree. And he is a very dangerous player, but the same can be said for Michael Smith with us. If you take Michael Smith out of it, you're not going to score. Well, at least that's what it says on paper. But I think we've got more goal scorers high up the scoring chart. We've got Freddie on 15. I think Wiles has scored 10. I think
double figures. I think.
Yeah. Barlas has got 9. So we've got a fair few players pushing up. But like I say, they've got Stewart with 24, and the next one's 9. And as John S has just put in the comments, he is in a little bit of a dry spell, so he's effectively nailed on he's going to score against us, because that's what happened with him. But yeah, if we keep him quiet, then we'll be in really good shout. I think with Sunderland, you just have to try and keep everybody quiet, don't you? Because especially when they're at home as well, because I think they are one of the best home sides in the league. I think the other one that's pipped to me is Wednesday, to be honest. Barlas has 10. So is it Wiles with 9, or are they both on 10? Because if they're both on 10, that's exceptional.
Bear with me. Soccer base says 9 for Barlas, but I don't think that includes yesterday. Freddie's on 11 for the league. Ben Wiles is on 10 in all competitions.
Right. Okay. So yeah, we've got goals in our midfield, which is nice. But yeah, Tuesday is going to be a very, I always say it on the vlogs, but it's going to be a very, very interesting game. And I think it is probably the highest stakes game we've ever played against Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. So anything can happen, I think, on Tuesday. Anything
10 days' time in playoffs.
Well, let's not start that yet, Matt.
Yeah, you're right to point out their home record. They have now played 22 home games. So this is their final home game of the season, and they sit on 50 points, level with Sheffield Wednesday at the top of the League One home table. Only 4 defeats in 22 so far. So beatable, but we are beatable as well. Let's go with how we want to line up. Before we talk about some results, what we think it may happen, Mick. How do you think we will set up in terms of the personnel?
Pretty much the same, I would argue. If there's no new injuries, I can't see any reason to change it, to be honest with you. Why would you? It's as simple as that, really. I don't change. It's working. We're back to playing to the levels that we were playing at, as we've already said earlier on the podcast. Back to October, November levels. Why? The time that we beat Sunderland 5-1. I think. Why would you change? Why would you change?
Yeah. So you're just going to turn starting 11.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice and simple. Danny, anything to change, barring injuries? Can you see any changes?
No, I don't think so. I think this is the final biggest game of the season, and it could, not mathematically, but effectively seal promotion with our game in hand. Because if we do beat Sunderland, and then all we need to do is get at least a point at Gillingham, and we are promoted, and it is that that easy now. So I can see same starting 11 purely with Woody in the middle for that experience and controlling of the game, and I think why change winning formula? We've put in a good performance against Oxford, so hopefully it can be the same again.
Yeah, absolutely. Alfie Knott says, what happened with the Shearer shirt? Because I've heard that Alan Shearer has posters of Michael Smith on his wall. Like it a lot. And Scott going to with the big question: who will Grigg be supporting on Tuesday night?
Rotherham.
Yes. I don't think I'll be on comms for this one. I don't think that'll go down too well. Turn the stadium light, cheering the goals on comms. It's a shame because we obviously went to the game on Saturday. We listened on Tuesday, Mick. I enjoyed Griggy on commentary last Tuesday. One of the few entertaining bits of the game, wasn't it?
yeah. It was. They were good. Absolutely.
Score predictions. I will go first, and I'm going to go 1-0 to Rotherham United. Of course, why not? What did I put it yesterday? I predicted 3-0. I'm going to go 3-0. Danny.
This is where it gets tough because every team that we've quote unquote battered at New York, we've come up short against in the return fixture, and it's actually evened out the score. Like Portsmouth beat them 4-1 and then lost 3-0. Burton we won 3-1 and then lost 2-0. So we're level pegging it. But honestly, I don't think Sunderland will beat us 4-0. That's I think ludicrous to think that, and I'd never forgive myself if I did predict that. So I am going to go with a 2-1 Rotherham win. I think we'll score first. Sunderland will equalise, and then we'll say Barlasser will score winner because it'll be funny, won't it?
That'd be funny. Danny, Mick. No, I've put you in the wrong box. 2-1 says Danny. Mick.
God, I don't know. Do you know? I've been thinking while you two have been talking about it. I still can't. I don't know. I'm going to go 1-0 Millers. I'm going to go clean sheet for Victor because I want him to keep a clean sheet, and I'd love to see Barlasser score a screamer this time. 1-0 Millers. That would just be heaven, wouldn't it? It'd just be the sweetest thing ever. Yeah,
it would. Harvey Kelly says 1-0. Ethan says 2-1. Scott Grundy says 1-1. Steve Cooper says 2-0. Jack Phillips says 4-0 sweep. John S 1-0 to the Millers. Reg through 3-1. PowerMed puts his Wigan Pompey prediction, says Portsmouth will win 2-0 and we will win 3-0. YouTube user says 3-1 to us. Carl Scott 1-1. Anna Player says 3-1. Paul Brook says 1-1. John S says 3-1 to Portsmouth. Jerry M. Simpson says Smith to score, but no prediction again from her because this is the stage of the season where all the superstitions start to kick in properly. And they do.
Clean sheet, as she just said there, as he followed that comment up with a clean sheet. A clean sheet tomorrow. Anything else is a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah.
But a clean sheet will be just a thing of beauty.
Yeah. As Danny said, we said this on the last podcast, and the maths have become simpler than they did last week. We've got one win, 3 points. 3 points and we're up. That's it. There's no ifs, no buts. If we win one of our last 2 games, we are promoted. We are up there. And I back this team to win. I think they've got the potential to win both, but I certainly back them to win one of those 2 games. And then there's nothing anybody else can do about it. Come on.
Yeah, because goal difference is massively in our favour. Well, I say massively. I think
7, isn't it?
6.
Yes. Yeah, 6 goal swing in 2 games. I mean, it is possible because we saw it with Nottingham Forest a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah,
but I think
if we win one of our games, we are then going to improve our goal difference, even just by one.
Exactly. I really do hope we win the game in hand, but the downside to that is we never do it the easy way, do we? But for once, I beg we do it the easy way and we just get a win at the Stadium of Light. We break that duck like we did against Carl Robinson at New York, and then it's a promotion party at Gillingham. Fingers crossed, touch wood, everything superstitious that you can get under your belt. Do it do it for the last week of the season, because we don't want to extend it by another 2 weeks in the playoffs, do we?
No, we don't. No, we absolutely don't. Yeah, this is it, boys and girls. This is the final 7 days of the 2021-2022 season, of the regular season anyway. Get behind the boys. If you're going to Sunderland, I know they stick everybody up miles away, but make as much noise as you possibly can. You'll probably outsing 30,000 Sunderland fans, not in their home form and record. And then we go again for Saturday for what will hopefully be a promotion party at Gillingham. And whatever happens, it's going to the final day, technically speaking. Whatever happens, it is going to the final day. So I hope we can do that. Paul Bounfield says, I enjoyed this podcast better than last time, guys. Cheers.
I know, Paul.
And Paul Brock says, are we still planning a get-together you mentioned a few weeks ago? Yeah, we are still planning on doing a pre-season prediction show next season live. But honestly, I can't even think about it right now. I can't get past next Saturday. I just can't get past 12:30 next Saturday at the minute.
Next Saturday, I can't pass Tuesday at the minute. My brain's just gone straight to Tuesday.
Yeah. Come on, Millers. I believe in you. We believe in you. Best wishes to all the players and the management staff for Tuesday. Just same again. Play like you did on Saturday, and you've won the game. Just keep that up. Mick, anything you want to, just in case there are any of the players watching, send out a message.
I don't have a message. They don't need a message from me or from the rest of us. They know what's expected of them. They know what they're capable of, don't they? You know, and they will go out there and they will commit 100% to that cause, because it's their cause as much as it is our cause. So we know that they're going to give 100%. So that will be enough.
Danny?
One thing I will say is if Smith and Barlasser either score an assist or both score against Sunderland, we need to blare out Blade and Races on the way home. Because Blade and Races is one of Newcastle's diehard chants. And and I think if we do beat Sunderland, we need to play it on the podcast purely for them, because it would be astounding, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm fine with that. JLM Simpson, we will believe. That's her message. Absolutely. I'm a player. Finish on this one. All I know is Victor is one sexy Swede. Yeah.
I suspect I'm a player might actually be Victor's YouTube account. I'm just saying.
Is that Tobias? Is that his dad?
I only know 3 other Swedes, and all 3 of them would disagree with that.
Brilliant. Thank you all for listening. We've gone long again, but at this stage of the season, we're just probably going to go long on all of them. And if we get to playoffs, Jesus, that could go on for days. Please do like this episode. If you're on YouTube, please click the thumbs up. Please subscribe if you can as well. Also, iTunes, if you're an audio listener, I know a lot of people listen to us to sleep or while they're on a run. Please do subscribe.
I knew you'd get that one in. The thing is, you've put it in now and he'll already be asleep.
It will, yeah. It will be, yeah. If you haven't subscribed on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get us, please do so. We will be back on Thursday evening, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, where we will be looking back at what has happened to our season, whether it's success, or whether we still need something to happen, and then looking ahead to the final push, the final day of this crazy, crazy season. Thank you, everybody who's been involved so far this season. Please join us again next. Danny, Mick, stress levels are just
going up again, aren't they?
Yeah. Thank you, boys. Thank you, both of you. Pleasure to speak to you.
See you soon.
Ta-ra.
Freddie's on one-on-one. Freddie Kenny shoot container shot. Yes!